Hello, now we are on to the health and damage, which is coming right after the weapons and reloading lesson that we did. So far we can shoot, we can reload, and we can see that our ammo gets replenished. So now we're going to make a way to take damage and give damage. We're going to make it so that we can link it to a health bar. We're going to make an animation show when we take damage or when we shoot an enemy, and we're going to make a way to replenish health when we walk over something, so like a health pack. So the only things we're going to need for this lesson are visual effects. So I just searched Zap VFX, which is just something that I found that looks pretty good. Make sure to switch the license to personal to make it free, and then you just select add to project. And then the other thing that we need is, oh, let's see. I went to Mixamo and searched for hit reaction, and then I just downloaded this one where it looks like he's taking damage while holding a pistol. Dragged it into the animations folder, checked import only animations, selected my skeleton, then renamed it to AS_hit. Then we're good to go. So the first thing I did in my blueprints folder was make a components folder. So we're going to make a health component. And components are just ways to make reusable blueprint logic across many different actors that we want to have the same functionality for. So like, for example, if you had a combat component, you could add that to different types of NPCs or different types of enemies that you're fighting, and they would all share the same logic. Or if you had NPCs in your game and you made a dialogue component, you could have a bunch of different types of NPCs that all have that same dialogue functionality. So what we're going to do is make a health component. So everything in the game that we want to have health bar. So the enemies, us, it's an easy way of sharing that. So later in the game, if we wanted to make like destructibles, like a rock or something, then all we have to do is add the health component to it instead of like copy pasting a bunch of blueprints. So hope that makes sense. Like if I opened up BP character FPS, the same way we added this player eye camera, it's just you could just press add health comp. That thing will have all of that health stuff on it. As you can see, a lot of the character type blueprints have character movement. They all have that same movement functionality. So that's what we're going to do first. I'm going to open BP character base. And then in the components, just hit add. And we're going to select this first new blueprint script component option. It's going to be an actor component. And you can just read it. It says actor component is reusable across all actors. Hit next. Name it BP_health comp. Health comp, and remember to place it in that components folder that we just made. All right, so this is where we're going to do everything that has to do with health. So first we're going to make a variable called max health of type float because it has decimal values, and then another one called current health, also of type float. Dock this with everything else and compile it and make sure to set the default values to 100. I'm actually going to do 200. Most of my weapons do 100 damage. So now with those two variables made, we're going to start making the logic for taking damage. So I'm going to right click anywhere in the event graph, find a get owner node, pull out, and create a bind event to on take any damage. So whatever this thing is attached to is taking damage. Connect that to the event begin play. Then I'm going to pull out of this red events node and create a custom event. Add custom event and call it take damage. So it's self-explanatory. This could be the event that we call when we take damage. Right now, let's just pull out of the white execution pin and do print string. And then pull out of the damage actor and get a, get display name. And pull and attach that to the in string. Or you can just copy and paste this from the doc. But all right, now with this made, let's go to character base again. Confirm that the BP health component is on your BP character base. Looks like it is. We don't need this event any damage now because we are calling that from here instead. So we can delete this whole thing, compile, And if we play the game right now, and if I shoot this guy, you can see the name gets printed instead. So now back to the health comp. Let's create a method to calculate the damage. So I'm going to make life easier for myself and just find that in the doc. So it's down here in the first section. Copy the calculate damage method that goes in BP health comp. This is just a custom event that we created. It is taking an input parameter. So if you were making this yourself, you would just add it over here called damage. And we are subtracting the damage from our current health, and whatever the result of that becomes our new current health. That makes sense. All right, now with the calculate damage method made, we can go back to the take damage method and delete the print string and that other node that we had here. We can delete those and instead drag out from the white execution pin and call the calculate damage method that we just made. And plug in the damage output pin into the damage input pin and compile and save. And now we're going to make an interface. So in the blueprints components folder, we're going to make an interface, which is a collection of functions that we can call from other blueprints. And we'll see how that works in just a second. So I'm going to right click, go to blueprints, blueprints interface, and name it BPI for blueprint interface underscore health comp. I'm going to open that up, shuffle it in with everything else. And then in the top right here, you see the new function. I'm going to rename that into health comp notify underscore take damage or took damage. This is what we're going to call from the blueprint that we put this interface on later. So let me move my head out of the way. And then in the inputs, we're going to make an input parameter. So we can hit this plus button next to the inputs tab in the bottom left, bottom right, and call it damage causer of type actor. So a little drop down there, just search for actor, click it, then we can compile and save. And you can see that added a little input parameter on the function node called damage causer. Now we're going to make two more functions. We're going to name one of them. I just hit the plus button in the functions tab. Health comp notify underscore dead, which we're going to call when we die, and then health comp notify underscore update UI. Those are all the things we want to do when something in our game takes damage. So with the update UI still selected, go to the inputs tab and press the plus button, and we're going to create, this time it's going to be of type float. So we can switch from actor to float, and it's going to be called health percentage. So I'll compile and save that, and then go back to my BP health comp, and we're going to get some references to those. So back in our documentation, right in this section, we have the request update UI and the check death methods. Select Control C, back on BP health comp, Control V to paste. And looks like I'm gonna have to remake these functions, which is fine. So request update UI, that's where we want to call the health comp notify update UI. Looks like we are plugging the return value into the target and the current health minus or divided by the max health into the health percentage. And then we do the same thing, health comp notify dead in the check death method, and then we just delete this invalid message node. And you can see where it says target is BPI health comp, it's getting these functions from the health comp that we just made. So if I double click on that, we get the interface, the function that we just made on the interface. Right now they're not doing anything, but just a little bit more about interfaces. They're kind of similar to inheritance, except instead of the child getting everything that the parent has, we can attach this interface to any blueprint and give it all that stuff, regardless of whether it's a child or a parent and so on. So all this health related stuff, and so anything in our game that's going to have health, we could just attach this interface to it, and it's going to have this update UI, this dead you know, all that stuff. Uh, so of course it's going to be helpful for characters or enemies or objects. Um, Also, similarly to inheritance, you can do different things depending on what the object is. For example, if you want to call one of these functions from like a door that's like activate, then it would open the door versus calling on a light switch. Activation might mean turning on the lights or something like that. So it would have all of these like basic level things that we would put here, but then as we'll do it in a few minutes, we can change it depending on what we actually attach it to. What we're going to attach it to is our character, so our BP character base. But first, let's call these functions when we actually take damage. So in our take damage method on the health component, right now we're just calculating the damage that we're taking. Now we want to update UI and all that stuff. So I'm going to get an owner node. I'm going to pull out from the damage causer to get that owner. So if you're copying pasting this code, you might have to still, instead of just pasting this get owner node, you might have to pull out from the damage causer input pin. Make sure that you're getting the correct owner. I'm going to pull out from the get owner node, and the first thing that we did was the taking damage. So health comp notify took damage. Plug in the white execution pins. We're going to get that same get owner node that's on the take damage node. Double click that to make it look a little neater. Then I'm going to pull out from here and create the next thing, which was updating UI. Just get the regular request update UI, pull out again, and finally we are checking death. So, looking good. Compile and save. So with that done, let's go to the characters folder, open the BB character base, and implement that interface. So up in the top, hit the class settings button. Then on the left details panel, go to the implemented interfaces, click the add drop down, and search for the interface that we made, BPI health comp. That added an interfaces tab on the bottom right. So if we go through each of these, right click them and select implement event. We're just going to go ahead and do that for all three of them. And then we are going to go ahead and give them some stuff to do. So for this one, I'm just going to copy and paste that from the documentations. For the update UI, this is just going to show the damage that we do to the enemy. So I'm going to copy everything except for that base node. Paste that next to my update UI method and connect the white execution pin to the print string. For the took damage, I'm just going to create a print string, or for the dead, I'm just going to create a print string called ouch. Right, that's what it says to do. And then for the took damage, I'm going to destroy actor. Why does that feel like it should be the other way around? Let's destroy the actor when he's dead and print a string saying ouch when he is attacked. And then for this print string node, it's this append node is just showing, it's printing in a string a list of these input parameters. So first the name of the object that's being hit, and then the percentage of health that it has left, which I actually found you don't need this multiply node, because if you multiply anything by 0, it's just going to show 0. So we can delete that and then just plug this health percentage output parameter into this conversion node, which will just show the remaining health percentage. And then it just says this text here. So if we go test that out, if you want, because my character is holding the gun, if you go to the class defaults, I set the default damage to 25 here. And then the health comp has the max health of everything. The default for that is class defaults. I set mine to 100. So that would take 4 shots. Current health, I'll set that to 100 too. And you could also just set these default variables. So just to make sure everything's working, run up to this guy, shoot him, I see he has 75% health left. He says, ouch. Shoot him 4 times, he disappears. So everything is working. Do the character hit and death part of the documentation. First, we're going to make an animation when we hit the enemy, which is very easy. We already have the animation sequence hit that we imported at the start of this video. Let's right click that from our animations folder. Right click the AS hit, go to create animontage. I'm going to name it ASM animation sequence montage underscore hit, so that we can reference it from our blueprints. So character base, instead of printing the ouch string, I'm going to delete that and we're going to play montage instead. Play montage. Montage to play. Let's get our mesh and drag that into the skeletal mesh component and then create a variable. I'm going to call it hit anim of type anim montage. And compile, set the default value to the ASM hit and drag that in. Drag that into the montage to play. And then let's go see if that works when I shoot him. No. When I was attacking him, it was making me actually play the get hit animation. So we're going to fix that in a second. First, let's make an official dummy AI. So in our characters folder, right click on the BP character base, which is the parent for all of our characters. Create child blueprint class. Name it BP underscore dummy AI. You can open that up and go to the event graph and the event tick, compile it, or else you are not going to be able to see this option. But compile it, right click the event, click, and then add call to parent function. Make this node and then connect both of these. And then all we're going to do here is call attack so that the dummy AI is playing this attack method from the parent. I moved my player start to be right in front of the dummy. All right, so now that I looked at it, I realized I made a dumb mistake, but we're gonna use it to learn from it. So in character base, this is where we call the took damage. And instead of the person we're shooting playing the hit animation, we're playing the hit animation, the person who's causing the damage. So thinking about where we're calling this taking damage method from, is we're basically calling it from the health component. So I knew the problem had to be here. And then it was when I specifically said to create this get owner node by dragging out from the damage causer node. That was a mistake. That was just completely wrong. So I alt and click on this pin to delete it. That should give an error because it's looking for the owner when we just broke the reference. So right now this is referring to the damage causer. But really we want to reference the damage causee. So I'm going to drag out from the target and create a get owner node from there instead. Not that one. This one. Then theoretically, saving that should now work properly. And I replaced this was a BP character base, instead just drag in the dummy that we created earlier. I'm going to move my character out the way a little bit so it doesn't get shot immediately. Now if I shoot him, he plays an animation. Alright, you might have noticed there's some funny business when we get attacked or when we attack the enemy. The attacking starts looking funny or super quick, which is because the hit animation is overriding those final notifies on the attacking animation. So they're overlapping with each other. So the final notify that says go from attacking to idle is not playing. So one thing that we can do to fix that is by putting that our hit animation on a different group, because animations that are in different groups will not overlap with each other. So I'm going to go to the animations folder and open up the animation sequence montage underscore hit, ASM underscore hit. I'll move my head out of the way. in the bottom right, I'm going to hit add group. Going to name it reaction. And then with that reaction group selected, select add slot and name that hit. And then in the timeline, going to select this drop down in the default group.default slot panel and go to slot name and change it to reaction hit. So now this animation is in a different group. I can go to my animation blueprint. So that's in my animations folder, ABP_paladin, whatever yours is called. Double click on this anim graph in the bottom left. Takes you to the anim graph, and then I'm going to create another slot, default slot, in between this one and the output pose. Slot, default slot. And then from here, I'm going to check this drop down in the details panel and change it to reaction.hit. So now it's playing the animations from both groups. Hitting play, he attacks me, I play the animation, he keeps attacking me, he reloads, it's pretty cool. Then if he shoots me enough, I die. Next, let's add the death animation. So I went to Mixamo and I downloaded the death from back animation, this one. Without the skin, 60 FPS, dragged it into my animations folder, import only animations box is checked, selected my skeleton and hit confirm. And I renamed it AS_death. Right click it, create anim montage, ASM_death. I'm going to open up that montage. In the details panel, I'm going to check, there should be a blending out option. Enable auto blend out. Let's uncheck that so that it doesn't go back to the, don't want him to stand back up again or anything like that. And then we're going to go to our character base folder, character base blueprint, and I'm just going to copy and paste this blueprint because it's quite a lot. This one right here, I'm going to copy everything except for the event health comp notify _dead method or node there. Move this one out the way maybe. And paste all of that there. Start to do nothing. And I'm actually just going to delete this start death sequence. And now when we die, we want to start this death sequence. We don't want to destroy the actor quite yet. I'm going to pull out, type that there. This is doing is playing the death animation. I don't have this I'm going to create this variable for the death animation. Compile, set the default to our ASM_death. Sweet. And then it is getting the duration of our death animation and delaying the destruction of our actor for until our death animation is complete. Let's go kill this guy and see if that is working. So it should take 4 shots. And it did not work. So we're having the same issue that the attack animation is overriding the death animation is overriding it. So we need to make sure that we're not playing that animation if we should be able to play it. So in our BP_character base, we're going to go to the functions panel, click plus, and we're going to check if we can operate our weapon before we operate it, before we shoot and before we reload. I named it can't operate weapon. Going to get a reference to our BP health component. So we need to get our current health. Drag it from the components panel onto the event graph, pull out, get that variable that's on the health component, current health. Then we're going to check if it's not equal to 0. So exclamation point equals 0. Drag out and create a not equals to node. And then you can create a return node by typing in return node. Then we don't have the little parameter, so if you don't want to deal with that, you can just copy and paste the return node from the documentation. Or you can just copy and paste the whole thing from the documentation. Connect the bool from there and connect the white execution pins. And then we just have to call this can't operate weapon from the event graph and our attack and reloading methods. Just in between here, make some space. Pull out from attack. Call that function. Also create pull out from the can't operate weapon function and create a branch node. That's going to check the value, whether it's true or false. If it's true, then we continue. If it's false, then we just stop executing stuff. And then do the same thing here. Another branch node. Looks good. And also don't forget to connect these bools together so that we're actually getting that result. All right, so because we want everything to sort of play all the characters to play a death animation when they die, that's why we put this on BP character base instead of BP health component. Because you wouldn't want an object to play like a character death animation. We do want everything that dies to only die once, so we can remove this do once node that's on our BP character base in the start death sequence. I'm gonna Control X to cut that, then relink it up, and I'm going to paste that in the health component in the check death method. So now that's going to apply to everything. And actually we will do that after the branch, just so we're not calling it unnecessarily. Create the top-down view that is going to appear when we die. So in my characters folder, I'm going to right-click, create a blueprint class derived from pawn, and name it BP player death pawn, right? Then I'm going to open it up, add in the components tab a skeletal mesh. Change the skeletal mesh to my characters, so mine is SKM Paladin. I'm going to go to the location and on the Z, which is up and down in Unreal, change that to -150 and rotate it -180. And we'll see if that looks correct in a bit. Under the animation tab, I'm going to set it to use animation asset and then change the animation asset to our death animation. It's looking good so far. And uncheck looping. Then we're going to select the default scene route, add a spring arm components, add spring arm and a camera component as well. Camera, rotate the spring arm up to 60 on the y-axis. So rotation -60. That looks good. And move it up 50 units. So that would be on the z-axis. Now back in the characters folder, create a new blueprint class derived from player controller. And I'm going to call it BP_FBS player controller. Open it up, and here we're going to go to the class defaults. In the details panel, check off auto manage active camera target. I'm going to uncheck that, and then we're going to go to the event graph. And this is a big one, so I'm just going to copy and paste all of this from the documents from this section into the event graph. See if it's going to yell at me. Looks like it's good. Make sure these are set to 1 in VT blend ease in out, and blend XP is also set to 1. These are the methods that are called every time we possess and unpossess a pawn, because we're switching pawns when we die. We want to switch to this player death pawn. Let's see if that's correctly. BP player death. This should be the one that we just made, so. Player death pawn. Looks like it is the correct one. Let me just double check. Yep. I want it to play the animation and do all that dramatic dying like the dummy does, because for the player, we're switching to a different pawn to play the animation. So we can override that. This is where we're doing that on BP character base. It's doing the animation and then it's destroying the actor. So we're going to override that. Can open the BP character FPS in the characters folder, BP character FPS, and go to the override drop down in the functions panel and override the I'm not seeing it. Override the start death sequence. And then we can just destroy it right away. So this is in the documentation. Paste that in, connect it. And basically we're just skipping playing the animation because it's going to switch to the pawn that plays the animation instead. And then make sure you go to your game modes folder, open up GM underscore FPS or character FPS, GM for the character, and switch the player controller class from the default into the player controller class that we just made, which is BP underscore FPS player controller. Test it out. I'm getting hit. He's hitting me a whole bunch. When I die, the camera goes up to where we told it to go. Looks pretty cool. Now in the triggerables folder, we're gonna make a way to regenerate health now. I'm gonna right click on the BP triggerable, create child blueprint class, and name it BP health regen. And then this is gonna be like our health pack. So you can create or add whatever static mesh you want for this. We're just going to create one out of cubes for now. So make one cube and call it cross, and then add another cube. Unparent it. I'm gonna make it 0.3 on the X and 0.3 on the Y on the cross, and then for the cube, 0.3 on the Z and 0.3 on the Y. So it looks something like that. And change the material to just hue shift underscore inst because that's something that Unreal already has, and that's looking good. And then just go search for collision and switch them both to no collision. All right, that's looking pretty good. Let's go to the event graph and we're gonna make it rotate. So if we go to the documentation and copy, it's not a whole lot, but the event tick from here into the event graph of the BP health regen. That basically just replaced our event tick, which is being called every frame. Every frame we're rotating the cross. And because our cube should be a child of the cross, it'll rotate the cube as well. So if your cube is not a child of the cross, just drag it on top of that. Then for the actual regeneration functionality, let's go to the BP health comp, create a function. So the plus button in the functions tab, call it regenerate health. And then once again, I'm just going to pull that from the documentation, paste that in, connect regen to that little dot. It's checking if our current health is equal to our max health. If it is, then we're just going to do nothing. We're going to return, which means just stop. Otherwise, it's going to bring our current health to our max health, and it's going to clamp it at our max health, which means it can't go on top of that. All right, so now back on the BP health regen, we're going to create the event that is called when we touch this health pack. So in the documentation, you have the consumed method. Let's paste that onto the BP health regen. Compile that, see if there's any problems. Looks good. You might have to replace these static meshes if you don't have, if you're not using the same name that I'm using. This is just the cross. So the parent object of our health regen, and then change the system template. At the very beginning, we downloaded that zap thing, so I'm going to set it to the green one. And then we'll see if that works. This is just setting the visibility to nothing, collision to nothing, and then showing the zap effects. And then we have to create the overlap event, the event overlap. So let's copy and paste that below it. And then looks like we have to connect it up. So we connect that up and then set this component class from select class, set it to BP underscore health component, and then drag out from there to create the regenerate health. then that's actually going to be in between the starting node and the branch. And then this float, look, ooh, amount, regenerate health. Our regenerate health does not have an amount parameter, but it looks like it should have an amount parameter. Yes. So that is a problem that we have. So let's create an input and call it. So here is back on the BP health comp, and I'm in the regenerate health function. So you can double click on the regenerate health function to get here. And then I hit the plus button on the inputs, and we're going to call this amount, which makes sense. We need to tell the game the amount to restore, which is a float, and then the amount goes here. So plug the amount. It's going to add this amount to the current health while capping it at the max health. That makes sense. After we compile that and we go back to BP health regen, we now see there's an amount here. So you can set it to whatever you want. You can turn it into a variable. Right here we have a random float, so anywhere between 10 and 50, it's going to restore. All right, and then for some reason I think this part of the video got deleted, but at the end we just added this these nodes from the documentation at the end of our consumed method on the health regen blueprint. So just right after the spawn system attach node, I add this delay node. After 5 seconds or whatever, it sets the visibility and the collision back to active. So when you run into the health bar or the health pack, it comes back after 5 seconds. Like that. All right, so even when we have max health, we're still taking it because the only thing that we're doing when we check the health is checking whether or not to update the UI or not. So if we have max health and we don't update the UI, which is fine. If you wanted it to not even consume the health bar, then you would just go to the health regen, or I mean the health pack. You'd go to BP health regen, get a reference to the character and the health component, and then you would just check if the current health equals the max health, and then create another branch node. But I'll leave that for people if they want to do that right now. It's really not breaking the game or anything. But right now, we do have functioning health, and we have a way to regain health. Now we just need to put it onto a health bar, make a crosshair, and make it inventory. So that's what we're going to do next. But that's it for now. Peace.